John Flavel, Puritan, said, Christ is the very essence of all delights and pleasures, the very soul and substance of them. And this is why call our children, our people in our churches, and the world around us to see Jesus as the very essence of all delights and pleasures. Stop seeking pleasure, you evil people. Stop seeking happiness. No, you want delight and pleasure and happiness? Find them in Jesus. Listen to this statement. This just moves my heart. As all the rivers are gathered into the ocean, so Christ is that ocean in which all true delights and pleasures meet. He's the source of all things. And I go into this in my books on happiness, but there's no time to really develop it. But God is the primary. And all things He has created, which is everything else, is the secondary. And God gives us the secondary as our way of a lens through which we can see the primary. And so when Romans 1 talks about God revealing Himself in His creation and seeing His attributes and God revealing Himself in Romans 2 in our conscience, this is how, so when I see an otter and I see all this otter does all day is swim around and eat and create these little water slides. You know, people were not the first ones to invent water slides. This is what otters do. They make their own, they go up on banks and then they go down and then pretty soon it gets slick and wet and these otters are just playing all day and that's what they do. And then they swim around on their backs and they got their food here and they're eating, and now, I'm not saying that's a great model for our lives, is just play and eat all the time, although, there are times where it makes a nice break. But my point is that we should see that otter doing that and work backwards and say, where did that come from? Who made this otter? Are you saying that we could actually see the character of God in an otter? Well, I'm not saying it. Romans 1 says it. And He has showed Himself. He's revealed His character in His creation. Now, of course, there are limits to that because the creation is under fall and curse. So you don't look at animals who eat their young and say, oh, I see, God eats His young. No, that would be a false conclusion. But nonetheless, you see that we are to see in His creation God's goodness.